Mr. Kareem, are we live? Yeah,
Yes, sir, we are live.
we are live. Thank you. Hello, everyone. My name is Aklima Bibi. And this show is called Aklima Bibi with NL24. Just a brief detail about myself. I'm a mother and I'm also a grandmother. I hold over 35 years of professional experience, predominantly in international business and also law. However, there was always something burning inside me, and that's the passion for human rights and social justice. Hence, I've joined NL24 in the hope that we can discuss the various issues that affects us all, by educating, motivating, inspiring, and empowering. And hopefully, by debating and discussing things, we can come up with a constructive solution to the many issues that we face every day. Um, and with us today, well, first of all, let me tell you about the topic of today. Topic is COVID-19 and school issues. As you know, sadly, we have lost many lives during the last couple of months with COVID. However, we are resistant and we are hoping to go forward and try and see whether we can get things back to normality. But today's topic is COVID-19 and school issues. Mainly, I want to discuss something called the Health Protection Coronavirus Regulation 2020. Now, to discuss this, we have our special guest with us, digital, remotely. We have Councillor Raja Aslam Khan, who is the portfolio holder for Education and Skills, Luton Borough Council. We also have Mr. Anwar Khan, solicitor, director solicitor for Bridge Solicitors based in London. Mr. Aslam Khan, Mr. Anwar Khan, thank you very much for joining me and welcome to the show.
It's a great pleasure being on your show, Aklima.
Okay.
Thank you very much. It's really a pleasure to join you in this. The topic you have chosen, actually, this is very worth it at the moment due to the pandemic situation of the country. Especially, we are really worrying about the children matter, how they will cope in the school. This is we have a learned people here who is dealing with the council. They might have some philosophy or guideline or rules.
Yes.
Regarding
The reason I actually put this topic
to learn all those things.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry, Mr. Anwar Khan. The reason I actually chose this topic was I actually came across the social media suggesting a very worrying concern, which suggests that children can be taken away, forced to undergo COVID-19 test, and then, if found positive, can be taken away, put in isolation, or detained without the parents' knowledge. Now, with that concern, I quickly, obviously, rang the schools. Then I want to phone Mr. Aslam Khan, as he was the right person to contact to actually explain this. Now, originally, it was dismissed as fake news, but that is not the case. I'm going to actually ask Mr. Aslam Khan. I think we briefly spoke about this, the COVID-19 or Coronavirus Regulation 2020, and the issue I have raised with you, my concern that I have raised with you, which came from other parents as well, Mr. Aslam Khan. What's your view on that? That's to Mr. Aslam Khan, first of all.
Yeah, no, first of all, under the current government, the whole management of COVID-19 hasn't been ideal. In some instances, it's been very poor. And we know that they could have locked down much earlier. They could have provided PPE kits when people needed them. When it comes to education and communication, unfortunately, it was appalling. So, but here in Luton, we had to make sure that we look at the legislation, and we were very clear about the understanding of the legislation. And by the way, I checked up with our legal team today, and I've been told that it has been revoked. So, yeah, absolutely. So, and the social media, unfortunately, doesn't help. When people turn to sources other than the legal sources, such as the educational department, the public health, and it creates a lot of confusion. And there has been a lot of anxiety and a lot of stress, I'm afraid to say. But I'm really proud of our educational team who have worked very tirelessly over the past summer period, working with the DFE, as well as the schools, the head teachers, to ensure that we have a clear understanding of the guidance and the effective measures are put in place in safeguarding those kids. So when it comes to testing and tracing, it's not the responsibility of the schools. If any child presents any symptoms, they will be taken to a medical room and a parent will be contacted, and the parents will come and collect the child, and it will be their responsibility to get the child tested. And if the child tests positive, then it'll be up to them to quarantine and isolate, and then return back to school when it's safe to do so.
That's
But
normal. Sorry, just to say that you said it has been revoked. I mean, the guidelines you're describing, that's fine. That's normal. That's what we parents, as expect to do. However, you said this regulation has been revoked. Before I go to Mr. Akram Khan, Mr. Anwar Khan, could you please? I think you came across this regulation. Can you first of all explain that regulation, and then we'll obviously come to the social media and discuss, the confusion. I'd like to know the actual legislation. It was originally dismissed as fake, but it's not fake. There is that legislation there. Mr. Anwar Khan from Brit Solicitors, could you please explain that legislation? How do you understand it?
Before I proceed, can I ask Mr. Khan one issue? What you said has been revoked?
so the regulation that you referred to, if you click on the link, and I've been sent that link in clearly, that does not exist on the website anymore. Before coming onto the show, I had a look at that. We spoke to our solicitor, but I mean the most important thing is that here in Luton, I'm not quite sure what the rest of the country is doing, but here in Luton, I've been to the schools. Today I was at Chalk Hill, the secondary school. I've seen the pick up and drop off points, and this is just looking at the measures which have been put in place, the practical measures. To pick up and drop off points, there's clearly one-way system. There's a promotion of hygiene, washing of hands, cleaning of surfaces, and during breaks, people are kept in bubble, and during the lessons. But if in any case, if anyone presents any symptoms, it's not the school who's going to be detaining the child or quarantining them or isolating them or taking them elsewhere. This is what's causing that confusion and anxiety. And what I want to reassure everyone living here in Luton that we have put and worked with the head teachers in schools to put the safety measures in place, because safety is something that is the center of everything that we do, and promoting the health and well-being and ensuring that families and kids are supported. That we've done a lot of work around that. So I mean,
could I stop you, Mr. Aslam Khan? You're saying it's been revoked. Am I understanding that there's another U-turn by the government? Now they've removed the legislation. Mr. Anwar Khan, what's your
I think there is some understanding issues, problem of regulations in here.
okay?
Regulations is still in there. Before coming to that, even I check now, it is still in there. There is no, or still in there. There is no problem in regulations. I couldn't find in regulations. If I refer to regulation 5, there are two regulations in there. One is coronavirus regulation 2020. There is some restrictions. Another one, that is a coronavirus and restrictions regulations 2020. And another one is Health Protection Coronavirus Act 2020. Maybe we are talking about coronavirus, Health Protection Coronavirus Regulation 2020. I refer to Regulation 5 actually. What he said, what Mr. Khan said, it is correct though. It is not Regulation 9 what we think. It is a very, Regulation 6 is very clear. Regulation 6 is very clear. In that regulation, they said for child accompanied by a responsible adult.
Okay.
the health officer or public health medical officer
Okay.
can ask the responsible adult, whoever, it could be child, it could be mental health patient, it could be other issues.
Okay.
They will deal with, the public health people will deal with the responsible adult.
Can I just ask my concern? Sorry to both of you as well. My concern is that regulation? Will that regulation or any of the government legislation um, allow them to detain our kids without our knowledge, take them to isolations without our knowledge? That's what I want to know. This is the concern of the parents.
Come to regulation 9, that is deals with detention. Is now, I don't find any major defects in there. It says clearly it will be with the consent of the responsible adult, the health officer. Listen, it is a question of, it is a very pandemic situation, special circumstances. I don't find anything wrong in this situation, detention or isolation. They said if any person is detained or isolated, either in the school or any places, if they are child, they have to be consulted by the responsible adult. I don't find any problem in this regulation. If they would say the Secretary of State has power to detain any children and isolate any children in the school, there could be a serious issue without the consent of the parents. But regulation is clear
Yeah.
that with the consent of the responsible adult,
What does it mean by responsible adult? It could be anyone. It could be the head teacher. It could be the social services. The
no, no.
that's
This
yeah.
responsible adult is declared in law. It's a very clear provision.
Okay.
Person who has the parental responsibility, number one, if they don't have parental responsibility, it could be a local authority. Number three, if none of them are applied, if they are independent, it could be a guardian. They are the responsible adult. So not everybody, not the school teacher, not anybody, not the counselor are the responsible adults. It
Okay.
is a clear definition in law. So I don't find any problem in there. This thing which he has, Mr. Khan has said, has been revoked.
Could you, Mr. Aslam Khan, could you give us your opinion? You said it's been revoked. Can you explain more on that one?
Well, put it this way: government has done a lot of U-turns, a lot of
Yeah.
things they have done without consultation, without a proper debate, and everything has been rushed through. But here, clearly, they did get the sense. But when we're talking about responsible people,
Yeah.
I mean, it's important not to go too much into law and look at the practical issues.
Yeah.
And the responsible person would be the parent and the carer. And as if you look into law, we all are corporate parents, we all are responsible people. But any regulation here, as far as we understand, it's about safeguarding children. It's about stopping and contracting coronavirus. So as far as the schools are concerned, they have put in strong measures in place. They have worked very closely, our educational department, with the unions, with the school, and with the DFE, and to put those effective measures in place so that the schools remain safe for our children to return and get the education they need. We know that they have missed out on vital education. We in Luton are very passionate and very focused, and education is a high priority for us here in Luton. So we have to make sure that our schools are safe. And I've seen that at first hand, and I've spoken to parents, and they're really pleased the schools are opening. And today, driving around the town, I've seen one of the schools, we had 94% of the children returned back to school.
Yeah.
So that really gets to show the measures that we have put in place. Parents are confident, children are happy to return back and reconnect with their friends so they can enjoy the fun learning that they usually have in schools.
Okay, that's fine. One of the issue that I want to raise again, and I'm coming back to that again. So you were saying this regulation, as far as you are concerned, you've checked, and it has been taken down from the government website, which seems that they have done another U-turn, if they have taken it. But if they haven't, like as Mr. Anwar Khan said, it's still there. One of the concerning things is you're saying, right, we are going into a general sort of like information, and we know you're doing as a counselor, or portfolio holder for the schools, and the schools in general, they are doing everything, to reassure parents. That's understandable. My concern and the concerns of other parents is, are they going to use those legislation? If it is taken down, then they've done a U-turn, which is brilliant. If they have not done a U-turn, one of the things, right, is very vague. I think Mr. Anwar Khan, you would agree. That legislation, the health protection coronavirus regulation, is very vague. It doesn't clarify a lot of the things. However, it says, if you go to F, Mr. Anwar Khan, it says penalty. Okay, penalty for absconding or attempting to abscond from detention or isolation under Regulation 15 AB. Okay, so it seems then there's other penalties as well. There's 1, 2, 3, 4 penalties if whoever is detained breaches anything. I mean, if you look at it, it's very worrying.
And I understand, Ms. B.
Mm.
Listen, the government has to have some form of control. That's a pandemic situation is so worst in this country all over the world.
Okay.
You can see 45,000 people died in this country, sadly.
Yes.
It has to have some form of control. This type of penalty measure. You remember when they opened the beaches? It was full.
Yes, I know, Mr. Khan. Sorry to stop you there. I know they have to take measures, but isn't the children's safety through the the Children's Act already safeguards these issues? So why the need to bring out something extra, taking powers away from the parents?
No, there is no issue in there. I'm sorry for that.
Okay.
There is issue in there that government has taken the power from the children parents. The issue is, this children in the Children Act.
Okay.
In the Children Act is a clear provision this government has to consider the best interest of the child.
Yes.
A clear safeguarding policy of the government regarding children. This is even in the safeguarding policy, there is some pecuniary measures in there. So, for example, if you cannot look after your children properly, government needs to take initiative to take the children out of your custody.
Isn't that away from this coronavirus regulation, though? That's something else, another sort of the act and regulation that they can use, which is already being used. This is different. This is just suddenly just came out. That's what I'm saying. Isn't there already regulation that they control?
In a sense, what you are saying, it seems that it is not absolutely proper to deal with the children with a pecuniary measure. But it is not clear from the regulations that whether it is appropriate for the children. Like, for example, if they don't bring that measure for the adult, how you will deal with the adult? So I guess this is more adult issues than children. Children issue is more clear in section 6. They say that will be the measure to deal with the child. So I think government is in that situation, although it is something, listen, lots of countries in the world.
Okay.
It is lots of countries in the world are suffering from this. Even in USA, they opened their school. We can see in the television, in newspapers, that lots of people are infected. Lots of students are infected.
We are aware of that, and obviously, sadly, COVID is still here. But schools are going back. Children are going back. Anxiety amongst our schools. Government has already, caused so much stress amongst our young people with the exams, chaos and everything else. We're living in an era, where the young children don't even know. They've got so much, on their heads. Now, on top of that, children are going back to school. We are hoping for some sort of normality. But this legislation is more worrying. So I just want to understand, should we just ignore this legislation that's come out? Sorry, I'm going to actually ask Mr. Aslam, what's your opinion? Should we just ignore this legislation the government has brought up? Because clearly there's some strong words there.
Look, with any law legislation is designed to protect people, right? And I think what was said earlier, don't forget that a lot of precious life have been lost, and in order to reduce the spread of coronavirus, some kind of control has to be maintained. So law only applies when people break the law. I mean, I do understand in some other parts of the country, as we are all connected, or in some other parts of the world, where people have broke out, where they've been quarantined, they have escaped from the center, and they put the rest of the population at risk. Now, these kind of laws applies in scenarios like this. We live in a very different country. People are law-abiding, and we have worked very closely with the schools and the parents to make sure that people do understand the risk. And we also, it's our responsibility to put the measures in place to give the parents the confidence for the safe return of their children to school. And I can say to you, like I've said before, I have visited schools across Luton, and today I was.
Mr. Khan, you still there?
I'm
Sorry.
there. Yeah.
Oh, sorry, Mr.
I
Aslam
can
Khan.
safely say that the measures that we have been put in place, kids were following them, and those staggered times are working fine, and the pupils are working within their bubbles, within lessons, and even at break times, even at playing times, and I just drove up now at school collection time, and things are running smoothly. 94% returning back to one of the schools. It gets to show how people are now confident and feel safe for the return of the kids to school. So if you read into any law, you can bury your head into law if you choose to do so. But law is designed to protect people. And as far as my understanding is, first of all, there has been a revocation. Our understanding, we work very closely with DFE, which is the Department of Education, and public health here locally, and there is twice weekly updates which are provided to the head teachers and the schools. So in regular communication, and the schools are in regular communication with parents. I would encourage any parents, if they are concerned, they can contact their school and get that information or visit the school. So that's all I can say.
Okay, right. One last question for Mr. Aslam Khan as well. Okay, so this regulation, which you said obviously, was taken down from the website. Now, is that regulation now you're kind of saying that those parents who follow the rules, those children who follow the rule, it's not going to have an impact. It's not going to affect them. And those who break or breaches the guidelines and so on, it might hit them. Is that my understanding?
Positive symptoms, and they without consulting the school, if they go into school, or if a child is found to have positive symptoms, and parents will be contacted to collect their child. So say for example, in that situation, parents don't turn up, they neglect their children, there needs to be some kind of order, some kind of rule has to apply. So then these kind of scenarios may follow. But we know that vast majority of the parents are very responsible. They're very keen to see their children return, and I can assure you that all schools here are very clear. If any child presents any symptoms, the parents will be contacted. Nothing will happen to the child without their consent. It will be up to the parents to get them tested or to isolate, and once they're better, once they get over that period and it's safe to return, they can. And that they will work, our educational department and the teachers and the public health will work very closely with them and support them, and also provide them education remotely.
Okay, so my understanding is these are extra measures to safeguard everybody.
Absolutely.
Yeah, all right. We're coming towards the end of the show, but one thing I would like from Mr. Aslam Khan is, in order, obviously these concerns have been raised by parents as well, in order for them to be reassured, what is your advice to them? First of all, Mr. Aslam Khan, and I'll ask the same question to Mr. Anwar Khan. What is your advice to parents, Mr. Aslam?
First of all, the kids are at very low risk. If you look at the coronavirus and the people who've been impacted, generally have been people of older age, people with underlying conditions, and children represent, around 1% or less than 1% risk. So risk is very, very low. So, as far as schools are concerned, all schools had to do a risk assessment, which has been assessed by the educational department and also in consultation with DFE, the unions. So there's been robust risk assessments put in place over the past 3 months. A lot of hard work has gone in to ensure our schools are safe for our children to return. Now, education is very, very important. We need for our kids' education as well as mental health and well-being. So it's important for them to return to some kind of a structured education, and all our schools are some of the best in the country when it comes to safeguarding, and health and well-being and the safety is at the heart of everything they've done, and I've seen it with my own eyes. And so most of the schools have opened, and the rest will be opening in the next week or two, especially the secondary ones. And don't forget, the schools have been open throughout summer, and we haven't had any outbreaks. So that gives you a clear picture of the environment in school. So all I would say, let's get our kids back to education, which they deserve.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Aslam Khan. The same question goes to Mr. Anwar Khan. What is your advice to parents regarding the legislation and everything else? What is your advice?
Regarding the legislation, is Mr. Aslam Khan there? Can I ask him one question? Is he left? Or maybe...
Yeah.
No, Mr. Aslam is still with us.
Mr. Aslam Khan, I have one question before going further. Sorry to interrupt you. The explanation you have given to us, it seems that you have taken all precautionary measures after effect. So the issue is, do you have any prevention policy, like children will come to the school, so when they are affected, you can check they are affected. He only alone is not affected. That is the regulation. That is the clear regulation here, that he might be this boy or child or children may affect others as well. So before entering the school, do you have any measure to check whether these people, this boy, this girl, is affected? Like, do you have any measure like that? That I want to know before assuring any parents.
Sorry, Aslam Khan, do you mind putting the camera on? I think we can't see you.
I'm actually, I don't know what happened, but I think my camera is on, but for some reason it's not showing. But anyway,
Okay.
There is stop cap. You can click in there. It will come back camera.
I'm clicking, but it's not doing anything unless I come out and then go back in again. But I mean,
Mr. Reza, you need to left and come back again. Then easy.
Oh, leave and come back again. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Try that.
Let me continue with this discussion. This is not the question of the school authority, to be very honest. I am also a parent, a father. My understanding is it is not only the school can safeguard your children.
Nice.
Not the government. Welcome back, Mr. Aslam Khan.
Thank you. No.
It is not. Let me, go carry on your one, then I will come back.
Look, protecting yourself and protecting others is a responsibility for everyone, not just the council, not just the education department. It's a duty for us all. As far as the coronavirus is concerned, it's spread through human contact from a person to person. As far as the schools are concerned, all the services that students come in touch with and the equipment are cleaned regularly on daily basis. And hand washing, hygiene is promoted and is practiced throughout the schools, and the social distance measures have been put in place. And when the parents drop the kids in school, there is a queuing system with social distance markings, and they're told different times to come and drop and pick up the points so people don't gather all at one point. So reduce the risk. And there's a one-way system where they take the kids to the classroom. For older people, they need to maintain their social distance, and the entry points are separate to the exit points. Now, in the classroom, they're working in bubbles. No, that could be depending on each class, each school, depending on the size and space. So the desks are separated and kept at distance. So when they're learning, they're not actually in contact with one another, and there's enough distance. So you're minimizing the risk of infection, which is part of that prevention policy. Now, and when the people are collecting their kids, again, they're collecting at different times. So all of this is part of that risk assessment of preventing people contracting or spreading infection. Now, we also have the testing centers within Luton, and which have been placed in various parts of the town. So if anyone had any symptoms, whether there was a sense of loss, taste, smell, or temperature or headache, they were encouraged to go and get themselves tested, okay, and then to isolate and or take a necessary health advice. So, and we within our community have been working very hard with our community safety team to pass on those messages. So everyone is encouraged to stay home, and when they go out, they use their face masks and coverings and wash their hands on a regularly basis. Now, other than that, we know that from evidence-based, there isn't any preventative measure that you can put in place unless you get these symptoms, you end up in hospital, you end up on a ventilator. There isn't a magic cure as yet. We are waiting for vaccines to come. They haven't arrived yet. So the hygiene and reducing contact is the best possible preventative measure.
Okay. And also one more question. Sorry, Mr. Aslam Khan, I think we're throwing too many questions at you, but obviously you're the right person to actually reassure us. The fine system for the schools. Now, obviously the flu season is coming with the COVID as well. Is your fine system in still place, or will you consider or take into consideration the circumstances before you fine anyone, or if it is in system?
Well, it depends on case by case basis, but we're doing everything that we can, working with the schools to ensure that first of all, parents have the confidence to send their children back if they have any concerns. They can get in touch with me, the school, and certainly speak to other parents who are sending their kids to school. So, and now it's compulsory. In summer period or before the summer period, you had a choice, but now it's compulsory to send your children back to school because the infection rates have come down. Luton is not part of the special intervention town. If it is, then things would be different. So, and if you then fail to send your child to school, then there is a potential of a fine. But I would say that the safety of the children is at the heart of what we do. We're doing everything that we can to support the families. And so if there's any issues, do get in touch with your school, but it will be case by case basis.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Aslam. Mr. Anwar Khan, do you have any advice for the parents?
Thank you very much, actually, Aklima, to invite me to attend such a beautiful event. I learned something from Mr. Aslam Khan. Still, I have few confusions whether the school has any scope to test the temperature at the entry point. I wanted to know from Mr. Aslam Khan anyway. I think there should be. Now, come back to the legislation issues. As far as...
Do you want Mr. Aslam to answer that question?
Well, I mean, we know that some mosques and other places have used temperature gauges, but that's not the only indicator for coronavirus. That there could be sometimes that could be a false interpretation. It could be that they don't have temperature and they have other symptoms. So you have to take the whole safety aspect when it comes to corona in consideration. Just testing for temperature may not be enough.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Khan?
We agree that. However, as far as legislation is concerned,
Okay,
two issues are there. This legislation has been formulated very quickly. There could be some, I can see some loophole in there.
okay,
Every legislation in the country, when they formulate this legislation, there is some problem with every legislation, and that has been revised by the Court of Appeal or Supreme Court. This legislation is a very quick legislation. We cannot say that Parliament has taken wrong decision. The decision is correct. Now, implementation of this regulation, there could be some issues with the parents. Now, I agree with Mr. Aslam Khan, and also I had the same opinion
okay,
that there should be some form of control, either to the people. They mentioned NP, and also in the legislation, they mentioned two types of people. One is A in Regulation 4, and one is Regulation 4B. These two types of people needs to be controlled by proper authority. Otherwise, you cannot control coronavirus. There should be some form of control. I agree with the government efforts, but there are some issues which should be heart touching for the people, that there should be a fine provision for the parents. If we comply with the regulations, there shouldn't be any fine in there. But if we don't comply with the regulations, that is the very big risk for the country and as well as for the children. Now, the issue, another big issue will be, which I personally feel inconvenient for the children to go to school, it is psychological. Now, what Mr. Aslam Khan said, what they have done, it is absolutely correct. But the issue is when the child, say a child of 6 years or 7 years old,
okay,
when they see their friends, will they stay 2 meters apart? I don't believe in that way. Even if we stop in there,
okay.
if the school authority are very careful to stop mixing with each other, there will be a psychological impact on the children. That will be the biggest, could be a biggest disaster. I had gone through another articles maybe a couple of days ago. The DFES are considering this issue regarding this mental health issue of the children,
Right.
but has to be, they cannot decide anything at the moment. It has to be certain point. So now, can you stop a child of 6 years old when they are running to meet with their friends? This
Right.
is a very rude for them to stop in there. That could be more psychological than what the initiative they have taken. It's perfectly all right. The government cannot go out of proper procedure. It is okay. But
When they
my
do legislation, though, I know we are. There's a lot of issues. I think what's happening is, I think Mr. Aslam Khan will, or you, both of you might agree that we are in a kind of a daunting territory now. We're just trying to sort of ease back and try and hope for the best. Now, mental health, like as Mr. Anwar Khan said, might be most likely to be there because of these new sort of procedures in place. Now, is that going to sort of like have a long-term problem and issues in schools, though? That's what I'm saying. Or are we going to sort of see how things go and deal with the matter, how it comes, how we see it? Am I right in understanding, Mr. Khan?
No, first of all, just coming back to the point about the social distancing and kids mixing. Now, every measure has been put in place for them not to mix too much. However, by staying at home has even a bigger impact on a child's mental health and well-being, because they're away from their friends, they're stuck at home in their room. So it's important that they return back to school. But while they're at school, we have seen that over summer period, the nurseries and the primary schools have returned back before the secondary schools. So the nurseries and primary schools are well practiced, and keeping the children in a bubble, working in smaller groups, and playing, and even during lunchtime break times, they remain within the bubble. Now, it has worked really well. Here locally, we haven't seen any outbreaks. Kids have really had fun and they enjoyed being in school. So if anything arises, then we can revisit and relook at it. But currently, the measures that we have in place, we are very confident that children, first of all, like being in school. They like being amongst their friends. They do understand, and all the procedures have been communicated, and kids have been educated. They are be very careful when it comes to hygiene. They wash their hands regularly. They sneeze and cough in a tissue and kill it and bin it. They understand all the things. It's working really well. So I do understand people might have fears, but unless you send your child back to school, you're not going to know, and or speak or seeing the measures put in place by yourself and speak to other parents, you're not going to know, are you?
Okay, I think if I'm correct, what Mr. Aslam Khan is trying to say, that we've been through sort of lockdown and we've had like a lot of issues. Let's go back to normality. We are doing everything. Don't worry too much about the legislation, because we are doing everything to safeguard the children. Let's just all work together and then take it as it comes. Am I right in understanding that?
Absolutely right. Look, we collectively have pulled through certainly the biggest challenge, a pandemic of this century. We know that people are very anxious because they may have seen their loved ones pass away. They might have seen other people contracting the virus. But look, we have come over the worst. We know that it hasn't gone away. That's why you have to follow the guidelines. Guidelines are there for a reason. They're there to safeguard you and safeguard others. And everything possible has been done to safeguard the children in school. So now let's work together and let's move forward. Let's get over the psychological barrier and let's start sending the kids back and ensure your safety and others by observing the social distance yourself, by washing your hands regularly, and also communicating and teaching that to your children.
Okay, thank you.
I have something to add in there with Mr. Aslam Khan. I think he's right that let's go forward. Let's see how it works. Instead of sitting all the children at home, let's move out. But what there will be problem, there will be a solution. But my request to the parents, it's a personal request, not as a lawyer.
Okay.
The parents should tell the students what should be their behavior in the school. They should give some prior idea of what will happen in the school. If they can teach this type of thing to their children at home, they can overcome the psychological barrier in the school. If they teach this, for example, if I advise my son, when you go to school, please don't rush to your friend, because due to this corona, everybody is scared of this. So keep the distance, then go slowly. If all parents can suggest or tell to their children in that way, that will be more helpful to comply with the government regulations. That is more important than regulation.
So basically, we're all working together. Professionals, teachers, parents, we're all working together to safeguard and reassure and support the children. So basically, the message is to the parents from both our guests, and obviously is common sense as well. We support. We try. Let's go back and try and get some normality. Support our kids or our children. All of us work together, and let's hope for the best. and because that's what they need. We know what's best for our children, and the way we support them, the way we guide them is going to reflect on them. Yes, there's going to be issues, but there's going to be solutions. Yes, there are going to be psychological impact, but support them. There's teachers are there, professionals, GPs are there, medical professions are there, but parents, more importantly, parents are there. Listen to your children, and support them in every step of the way. Parents are concerned, talk to the teachers, and try and find a solution.
Yeah,
Is that correct?
just a one point, Aklima, just coming. There are health workers within each school will be doing everything they can to support the children as well as the parents. And the very first thing they will be learning in school is about hygiene, is about hand washing, is about working within the bubble. So, there is, gradual way back to education. So, and you're quite right. Parents also have been contacted, and they also need to emphasize on hygiene, on following the guidelines, and we all need to work together and educate our children. But it is very important, to get the kids back to school, because it's far worse for kids to staying at home. If you look at mental health and well-being, being stuck for the past 2-3 months is not good for the child. They need to go back and to meet their friends, to meet their teachers, and enjoy those fun learnings that they loved. And myself seeing those classrooms, seeing kids loving each day, returning back to school, is in a prime example of people who want to go back to school.
Let's just go forward. Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Anwar Khan. Thank you very much, Councillor Aslam Khan. We've come to the end of the show. We've actually run over time, but thank you both very much for coming to the show. And to our viewers, as you have listened, please do, take the measures, try and go, send your kids back to school, support them. Don't worry too much about the legislation. Speak to the teachers, speak to the school teachers, and let's all work together for the best interest of your child. So let's go forward. Thank you very much for joining us, Mr. Aslam Khan and Anwar Khan.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
All right, very much.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Yes,